Where's aren't they family? You work graveyard?
No, right after this. Immediately after this.
Is it a 12-hour shift?
Yeah.
So what are you doing here? I mean, you have a career.
Nursing school.
Oh, semi-married?
Probably eventually, yeah. Well,
Better pay?
better pay, better career options. After that, probably PA school.
Davis?
Haven't decided yet. Stanford would be nice.
Stanford would be nice. I have my sister-in-law. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
That's what? Like, yeah.
My question is going to try and get dispatches of voice.
Well, good luck. How's the fasting going? It's awful, isn't it? I don't know how people survive without food. I mean, you go to someone's house and all you do is just eat. Take that away and there is no relationship. Well, good luck. Hello, Oscar. Well, do you have any questions, any comments before we go home? Have you learned anything from this fasting that you're doing?
Yeah.
Like what?
It's a really big lesson.
It's what?
It's a really big lesson.
How so?
Almost. Probably don't have to get out there. Almost.
Yeah. By the way, just in case sometimes I say things that rubs you the wrong way, raise your hand, let's have a conversation, or see me after class, or come to the office. You don't need to leave the class being frustrated or angry or, hello, Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
You know how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still dying?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, aren't we all?
So language is a tricky thing. So just in case, always know the door is open. Just come by and have a conversation. Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, let's hear them. A few of them.
I have a question.
Sure, come on.
Some people say there's no reward for being a good person, and others respond to that. If you're looking for a reward, then you're not actually a good person. What's your take on that?
I come to class, I say a few ridiculous things. And while I'm in the moment, it feels good. You have the attention of 10, 15, 20 people. They ask questions. They seem to be excited, interested. I don't care about their background. I don't much care about their history. I don't care if they've turned in work. None of those things matter while I'm in the classroom. And then I go to my office and I sit and I say, okay, it's time for me to grade some assignments. Then I come upon your name You asked like 50 questions in the class. You were very inspired, excited. And I see that you haven't turned in any work. And I say to myself, I come to class, I pour out energy, and this guy's ridiculous. Am I looking for a reward? Absolutely. You know, I mean, imagine you go home and your mom has spent like 5 hours in the kitchen making your favorite food, ratatouille. Have you ever had ratatouille?
Yeah.
You have? And you just eat the food in front of the TV. You don't even say thank you. You don't even, pick up your plate to put in the sink. You just like walk away. How's your mom supposed to feel? What, I'm Jesus Christ? I just make things. I don't expect a thank you. No, that's not the way human beings work. So even if you were to run into a homeless person and you give them $10, is it a good thing for you not to expect anything in return? Yeah, I mean, if you're able to overcome the basics of human nature, The truth is, at the end of the day, a thank you would be nice. A reward, really, for the most part, is an indication that someone has paid attention to what you've done and has a decency to say thank you. Or maybe just write a stupid question and submit it on Canvas. You could be as dreamy or as hippie as someone like Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He had this idea that of a natural man or natural human being. You hold hands with someone, but you don't really expect a relationship. You kiss someone, there is no expectation. You have sex with them, no expectation. And the truth is, that's not the way we function as the sort of animals that we are. You spend time with anyone. You have no choice but to have emotions. Those emotions create attachments, whether negative or positive. And you run around with certain biases, certain expectations. So anyone who tells you that, let's just spend the night together and tomorrow, whatever, run away from that. Because this is a person who's just unable to commit for whatever the reasons may be. Maybe they're just not mature enough. Maybe they have a checkered past. Who the hell knows? Yeah. Haven't you read the Gospels? See, when you read the Gospels, something really interesting happens. So, hello. You assume that someone like Jesus Christ expects nothing. He just goes there preaching, there to inspire people. But the truth is, that's not the case. At a certain point, when he is in Jerusalem, he looks at the Jews in power and says to them, I will never come back unless you guys learn how to cry. That's an expectation. You believe in God? You want to go to paradise? But there are certain things God expects. So if God has expectations, why shouldn't you? The only thing is you have to... Do you have children? Well, when you do have a kid, I hope you never do, but just in case you do, the truth is you can't expect a 1-year-old to act like a 10-year-old. So you have to figure out where you are, who you are, what you're dealing with, so you can have the appropriate expectation. I mean, you may be gay, and you may assume that I am gay, and we're just like walking, and all of a sudden you bend over and give me a kiss. And your expectation is for me to kiss you back. Well, you're not paying attention to who and what I am. And so you make the wrong move. I do something that doesn't please you. And then you become sad, angry. It's all because you had the wrong expectation. So it's always good to know what you're dealing with. And the truth is, when you walk into a class like this, you have really no idea where people have been, what they've gone through. And for someone like me, whose mouth is just like runs free, sometimes you say things and people kind of have intense feelings about those things. And the truth is, there isn't much I can do. Unless the person is willing to come by and just have a, chat so you could get rid of the wrinkles. Does that, is it, no? How old are you? Imagine you went out with like a 22-year-old young woman and she really liked you. Does she know what it means to be a 22-year-old man? No. Does she know how flimsy you are? No. How confused you are? No. How pathetic you are? No. That financially you just suck? No, she doesn't know any of those things. But she loves you. And she plans for marriage and commitment and all those things. And the truth is, in the end, she's going to be disappointed. Because she has the wrong expectations from the wrong person, which is you. If she was to wait till you're like 50, maybe then. But by then, you know, she's all like wrinkled up and so. Is it? No? I mean, you know how parents are. You have sex and you have kids. And you think it's going to be like happiness ever after. And it's not. Never is. I forgot your name.
Oliver.
Oliver. Oliver. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد.
I had one for picking up the background. Why do we expect so much? Why do we expect so much?
From who?
Just from life in general or your companion. Like you said, we always get disappointed when we expect it. Why do we have such a
You know, the truth is life is uncomfortable. I mean, there are challenges at every corner. And this frontal lobe that we have, you know, this calculated, this messiah that comes down to try to kind of figure out what the hell to do with the chaos of life, it creates imaginations, you know, with little understanding. It's something that Rene Descartes, hello, had mentioned around the 16th century. You know, you have understanding, which is limited amount of experience, you read a limited number of books, you think a limited number of thoughts, but imagination, you can just sit and daydream. You know, you can imagine that you have wings and they can take you all the way to the heavens. And so if you look at our human evolution for the past many thousands of years, you know, we have, especially the last like 67 years, it's incredible what we've done. You know, we're just not satisfied with living in a hut. You know, we're just not satisfied with living in a studio. It's always something bigger and better. And I think it's both a blessing and a curse. Look, you know, my mom married at the age of 15 and a half. She didn't expect to fall in love because it just didn't exist in the culture. So part of our understanding and imagination as to what it is that you want to do with yourself and your life has to do with where you live and who you are and what you do. You know, if you live in a culture that keeps promising you and you become a donkey with a carrot and, you know, a stick, the truth is you're always going to be unhappy and discontent. That's one thing that Mahatma Gandhi had talked about, that, you know, modern life, modern people, modern civilization, it's unable to make people happy. You know, you go to Costco, you buy all sorts of things. It's time for joy. You come home and you look at all the things you bought and you say, what the hell? You know? And I don't know if it's because we have too many options out there. You know? Again, it's both a blessing and a curse. And it's a corruption that it's brought about by time. You know, you asked a question about cheating last time. You know, I mean, look, we are married. I love you. You love me. Have I ever examined time and what it does to people? No. All I know is that I am consumed by who and what you are and the dreams about our future, and so are you. And you know, when you fall in love, you're like at the very peak of Mount Everest. There is no higher to go. And that's one of the problems with like romanticizing life or experiencing romanticization at a very young age. I mean, you're 15 and you fall in love. You should have that experience when you're like 60. Because it means from the age of 0 to 60, you keep chasing this. But when you fall in love at the age of 15, the only place you have left is to go downwards. Which means that from the age 15, when the relationship goes sour, from the age 16 to the 100, if you live that long, you're always going to say, you know what, I want to have what I had at the age of 15. The truth is that's not the way it works, you know. So going back to the cheating example, for example, I don't want to cheat on you. I love you. I don't want to break up our relationship. But the truth is, I experienced love. I experienced being a poet. I experienced sitting by the phone patiently for 10 hours waiting for a phone call from you. I had all of those things. And all of a sudden I'm confronted with the fact that I look at you and I feel nothing. And one of the nice things about, love relationship is that I see you and I feel my own existence. I have no idea why at a certain point I look at you and I feel nothing. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to have an affair. It just means that I just feel nothing. I go about my business. I come to class, I teach my classes, I go to Trader Joe's, buy some diapers. And all of a sudden, at Costco, I look at Oliver. I don't know why. I mean, for the past 50 years, I thought I was straight. But for some strange reason, he just does something to me. How, why, when, who, I don't really know. I mean, the idea of Malcolm X giving himself the X, like I'm a mystery, I have no idea what the hell is going on with me. It's a very profound statement to make. That your idea of who you are is unfolding as you move through time. Now, did I go to Costco with the intention of finding someone and sleeping with them? The answer is no. But lo and behold, there he is. He looks at me, I look at him, and for the first time in the 10 years or 20 years that you and I have been together, I say, man, I'm visible. He sees me, and I like the way it feels. Well, what is attraction but various components of pleasure? And what's pleasure but a set of feel-good moments? And why wouldn't you pursue that? Unless, you come from a culture that just demonizes those things, or you have a very strong sense of will, or you feel guilty because you got kids, or whatever the case may be, or you don't want to turn out to be like your father or your mother, whatever, And it becomes very, very complex. So, I wake up at 3, go to my office at 4, in hopes of one very simple thing. Maybe I can be inspired to write a good paragraph. I'll have 50,000 pages here and there, but it's not enough. I just want a good paragraph. He's got a job, pays him well, it's not enough. It's an example we talked about in the class yesterday. I mean, you're a Muslim, right? And some people in this class are Christians or Jews. I mean, read the Genesis version of how human beings were created. Garden of Eden. Life is really good. There is only just one simple thing that you should not do. There's a tree out there. Just don't go near it. That's all. Just be happy with where you are and what you have. You're running around with angels, Whenever you knock on God's door, He opens, invites you in, has a couple of, cups of coffee with you, with some pastries. Life is wonderful, but it's not enough. So the element of discontent is something you're just born with. You can't get rid of it. It's impossible. There is only one way that you will ever, ever, ever taste happiness. Not pleasure, because pleasure deals with your dopamine, and that can kind of run into addiction and those things. Happiness is something you have to work for, and it's very, very tough. Because first you have to figure out where you are, what you want to do, and then you realize it's way over there. And then you have to make a lot of sacrifices, like Abraham and Isaac, or Abraham and Ishmael. Anyways, I forget it. Yeah. So there you have it. Good luck. Sebastian.
Why do we dwell so much in the past and worry so much about the future and not focus on the present?
Present has nothing to offer us.
Where we're at now.
No. Where are you? You're in this shitty classroom. You have every right to expect a class that's exciting, and you have every right to look forward to the lunch that you're going to be having, hopefully at somewhere good. Look, the present is simply an environment where you spend past and future in. You're spending your present moment to get your degree, which waits for you like 10 years down the line. So you sacrifice the present moment to deal with the past, resolve whatever issues you may have from the past, and you spend the present in trying to figure out how to obtain the things you want in your future. A degree, a house, money, a few wives or husbands. So this idea that you find people on YouTube telling you close your eyes and enjoy the present, all of us can do that once in a while. You go to the Rose Garden in Berkeley with your sandwich and a drink, and you sit there, you can see the entire ocean, and you're like Zeus sitting on your throne looking down on everything. And yeah, you can see the sunset, enjoy it very much, and say, you know what, I don't really need anything. There are moments you fall in love, and you realize it doesn't matter if you're poor, if you have a van, or if you have a mansion. It's just nice rubbing shoulders with the person that you love. I mean, that's your Sabbath. Tiny moment of contentment and satisfaction. But, your own psyche steals that from you, life steals that from you, past steals that from you, future steals that from you. Things are always being stolen from us. So do we have moments where you can actually enjoy the present? Absolutely. It's kind of like being sick and your wife or your husband, your kids taking care of you. Will you for the first time appreciate, the people present in your life? Absolutely. What Elham said about fasting. That's how I used to feel when I used to fast when I was your age, for 50, 60 days, not just 30 days. The initial philosophy was, fasting is good because it kind of allows you to imagine how it feels to be poor or hungry or homeless or this or that. That's fine. At a different level, you say, I don't really care about those things. What I really want to know is, why am I fasting in the first place? Towards what end? What tradition? What customs? What rituals? Why do I need to follow this all nonsense? For? What for? And so you realize that it's no longer about being homeless. It's no longer being hungry physically. But you realize that there is a different kind of homelessness, that you have a house, you have parents, but you feel orphaned. You have a job, but you feel poor. You have money, you feel poor. You have a home, but you feel homeless. You say, okay, maybe I should fast with a different kind of intention. So the point is, don't listen to Eckhart Tolle, Jordan Peterson, Sadhguru, any of those fake teachers out there. Use your present time to make sure that whatever your past is does not become an obstacle to your future. And make sure if you have any goals about your future. Right now, how old are you, Sebastian? You have no right to imagine anything about your future except graduating from school. No marriage, no kids, no video games, no porn, maybe a little porn. School. Because if you do things the right way, you'll be done with Laney by the time you're 19 and a half. Then you'll be done with San Francisco or Yale by the time you're 21 with your bachelor's. 23, master's. 28, PhD. And I gotta tell you, man, your parents, they'll die of happiness. Or you could make them suffer. You could fall victim to all these ridiculous advertisements out there. Go out there, explore life, freedom, this and that. You drop out of school, then you get to be like 30. By then, your mom, dad, ulcer, few strokes, So that's the only thing that should be on your plate. School. Oliver. Tyler. Oliver.
When you're saying that when you fall in love at like age 16 and then after that it goes all downhill, are you implying that you can only fall in love once?
No, all I'm saying is that there's a right time for everything. When you're young, you fall in love with someone's body. Nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, you're a nice looking man. I mean, sure. I mean, I don't know much about you. I don't know your emotional history. I don't know your intellectual history. I don't know how many books you've read. I don't know your parents. I don't know if you do booze or drugs or porn. I don't know any of that stuff. All I know is that, you know, I look at you and something about me tingles. And I like it. It gives me pleasure. It brings me to life. And that's one of the things about pleasure. It brings you to life, man. And life is goddamn boring. You're like my messiah. That's what pleasure does. I focus on you. You push me into the present moment. Do I think about my wife? No. Do I think about I may get fired? No, I don't think about any of those things. Unless I have moments of reflection, right? And I don't know what I want. All I know is that I come to class, I look at you, and it feels good. And then once we start talking and I look at you look at me, you know, your organism creates feelings. Some negative, some positive. The ones that are negative, I push out. The ones that are positive, I want more of it. Okay? If I know that you don't like to talk about philosophy, well, I avoid talking about philosophy with you because it's going to bring about negative emotions. So the more that you and I interact, feelings turn into emotions. And emotions, because they're historical, it means that you and I have been hanging out for the past 10 weeks. And you're not going to reveal who you are to me, and I'm not going to reveal who I am to you. First, we're kind of just a bundle of shit. We really are. I mean, just confused. You know, we don't really know who we are, what we want. And time reveals that to us. You know, it's kind of like I fall in love with you simply because I like your body, the way you speak. I mean, that in itself is very complex because you need to understand, I look at you and my eyes say, Oliver looks good. And then Oliver opens his mouth and talks. Say something. Go ahead.
Say something.
See, all of a sudden now my ears come into play. Your face looks good and the tone of your voice is pleasant to my ear. Imagine if your voice was high-pitched. Give me a high-pitched voice. Now, see, now, I like your face, but I hate your voice. And now something about me says, okay, you like his face, but you hate his voice. Do you want to continue with the relationship? Now, we are not usually aware of these complexities. Now, imagine if your voice is nice and your face is nice. I get closer to you, and then comes my nose. Man, you stink. And before we can continue, I say, listen, Oliver, my house is not too far away. We can go there. Why don't you go take a shower? Because I don't want to be around your stink. Okay? And so there are a lot of different components that need to kind of be in harmony for us to kind of continue with the relationship, you know. And then I realized that all of a sudden, you know, I want, you know, that this party stage that you and I had is over. I want a bit more mature relationship. I want to sit and have a conversation. I realized you simply don't have the intellectual capacity for that. Now here's the problem. You and I have built a history, but we're no longer intellectually compatible. I want to get out, but the emotional aspect holds me hostage. I want to run away, but I feel guilty. What should I tell, you know, my mom, your parents, who I'm very close with? And you realize that from that point on, I'll try to take you to like AA meetings so you can understand who and where I am, or have you read a couple of books to kind of get to where I am. But then I realized that Jesus was right. You can't make the grass by pulling it. You can't make the grass grow by pulling it. You know, if you're not ready to grow, I can't force you. And that's one of the problems with like marrying a guy who's like very young, you know. At a certain point, a woman wants children, but she realizes she's like dating an infant. And he says, well, let's have a conversation. Let me take you to the mosque or a church or this or that. But the guy is just an imbecile. So I just think you gotta come to a place where you realize that, hello, that you're just a miserable little maggot. And you will do whatever you can in life to take advantage of whoever, whatever, to find yourself a tiny little hut, a place of comfort. When you realize that you will never again fall in love. Because no one, you're not really looking for an emotional, you don't want to be an emotional junkie, do you? You don't want me to have power over you, do you? And the only way you can stop having other people have power over you, you have to be self-sufficient. I have five fridges at the house. You know what that means? I travel less to Costco, less to Safeway. I have no need to go outside very often. It's only because I have 5 fridges. If you're able to entertain yourself by your own creativities, if you like to sit and play music and create music, man, that's like 10 hours of you spending time with yourself. It's beautiful. You keep recreating, reinventing, And then at a certain point you say, 10 hours by myself, that was good, but it's time for me to go out there and socialize. But, you're in love with not the person, but the music. And whoever walks into your life is always going to be secondary. Always. And that's where you want to be. But for the right reasons. Don't fall in love. It's stupid. But let me just add that there are 7 versions, and maybe we'll talk about that today. Yeah, Matt. Love, forgive me, Matt. What's love in Arabic? Hope or muhabbat means just being kind and compassionate, generous. Ashaqi. It's like a binding weed. It's like ivy that lives underground, and before you know it, it wraps around this tree and then feeds off of the tree. And if you live long enough, the tree dies, but the ivy lives on. And for those of us in this class who ever have fallen in love, you have agendas in life, you have all sorts of things you want to do, but the moment you fall in love, like this weed that has always lived inside us, but dormant, it just comes up. How, why, I don't really know. Okay? It comes up, wraps around your feet, your ankle, it comes up. And then before you know it, you don't care about anything except the object of love. What the hell happened to your desires? Gone away. You're nothing but love. Aphrodite, Venus, Isis. Hello, Abi. How are you? I read your syllabus. It should be placed in a museum. It's fantastic. Good for you. It's very impressive. Any students yet? Okay. It's really good syllabus. Matt?
Stoicism. One of the ideas I like about it is that I'm allowed to not have an opinion, as in you don't have a right to my opinion if I choose not to give it. It can just live up here. But then one of the things that I kind of have a problem with is Marcus Aurelius spent all this time journaling, and then he died, and now they have all of his private opinions and thoughts, and that is like the gospel of Stoicism. Seems kind of counter.
All right, let's move on. What did I just do, Matt? I dismissed you. How am I able to dismiss you? Power and not caring for who you are and not caring for what you have to say. It means I have devalued you. And in devaluing you, I can walk away. Stoicism is just that. If you can avoid having any emotional relationship with and to life, life can't touch you. You're indifferent. I mean, it's a profound philosophy. I just don't know if it's humanly possible. Or maybe the trick is the following. Have an emotional relationship to the right things. And avoid, if you can, having a relationship with the things that are toxic and are bad or negative for you. I mean, look, for the longest time, I had friends who were smokers and drinkers. So I became a smoker and a drinker. Okay? Their value, their judgments, their emotions, their friendship meant something for me. At a certain point, I caught myself. I realized that all of a sudden my parents' judgments and value system are far more valuable than the friends I've had for the past 20 years. Little by little, because of my disgust of myself, self-hatred, I slowly walk away. The more I walk away, the less I am in an emotional relationship with the friends I've had for the past 20 years. So when they call me and say, come to us and let's party, I say no. And I don't care how they feel. I don't care if they say, well, he's stuck up. I don't care if they feel rejected. I don't care about any of those things. Why? Because instead of placing my emotions on those friends, I place my emotions on my parents. And maybe that's the trick. You know, that گردون کمری ز عمر فرسوده ماست، دریا اثری ز اشک آلوده ماست. And Firdaus demi ز بخت آسوده ماست. That if you look at, it's a poem by Khayyam. It basically means that, kind of like what Albert Camus had mentioned in a very simplistic way, but profound. Life has only one function: to piss on every single dream that you have. That's the function of life. Whatever it is that you want to expect from life, life will eventually piss on it. And even if life doesn't have the power, your own organism, your own body, it gets old and it crumbles. You know, sometimes I think I'm still 20 and I do construction for like 10 hours and I then pay the price for a week and a half. And eventually life says, you know, or my body says, you know, you may think that you're 20, but you're not. So Stoicism is great in the sense that it teaches you that pleasure is good. I mean, forget Stoicism, go back to hedonism, founded by Epicurus. And, you know, the idea that people usually assume is to become a good hedonist is like going around and pursuing anything that gives you pleasure or fun. But the truth is that's not what Epicurus argued. He argued, look, wrong pleasures can have devastating consequences. And it's something we found out in the 1980s. Sex is great. Have sex with the wrong person, you'll end up with an STD. Have sex with the wronger person, and you'll have AIDS. No one demonized sex, but they demonize your choice of people you're having sex with. Continue to have sex. Just make sure they're disease-free. As you get a little older, you realize sex is still fun, but you're thinking now more about the disease of the emotions and disease of the mind and disease of a life. You know, and so he argued, you know, go out there, enjoy life, have fun with life. Just make sure you have the right kinds of fun. And that's a tough thing to do. You know, for those of you who sometimes become annoyed with some of the ways I kind of express ideas. Just look at words as living organisms. They have 15,000 different ways of looking at. Fuck. Could it be a moment of passion? Absolutely. Is it because you're angry? Yes. Is it because you just saw injustice in the streets? Yes. Why the hell would you simply just stick only one interpretation to a word? And the more perspective you have, the more emotional attachments. I mean, the very fact that you at this age, are willing to put by the wayside all the pleasures that life can offer you, and you put yourself in this hellhole for the next 4 or 5 years, that's a great amount of maturity that lives inside you. You're not picking and choosing your pleasures very, very carefully. You don't want to be devastated by pleasures that could have negative consequences. So good for you. I mean, if he knew the value of money when he was 18, he'd be like a heart surgeon right now. Well, maybe a drug dealer, I don't know. Elisa, is it? Anything? Sophia? How do your parents choose that name for you?
My grandpa chose it.
Why?
He liked it.
Why? Did you ever ask him?
Not really. And then my dad was a teacher, so he had a bunch of different names. So he loved it.
Teaching what?
High school English.
Did you ever ask your father?
No, not really. They just kind of liked it.
Can you ask him today?
I don't know if he's home. He's working with it. Maybe.
He is going to come back, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. But why don't you ask him today? I mean, really, just ask him, why Sophia? Because that's my daughter's name. And Yusuf is my son's name. Tell your father I said hi. I mean, anyone who gives their kids a name as profound as Sophia, or Yama, or Krishna, or Matthew, man, these are parents who expect so much from their kids. And they want so much from their kids. And they see so much in their kids. It's wonderful. Whether or not kids can live up to those names, that's a different story, but... What's your father's name? Yeah.
It's okay to read dead guys' journals?
Yeah.
That's kind of my question.
Look, I think, when you go to In-N-Out for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and you sit there, wait for your order, and it comes, and then you eat, and you sit in the car, and you say, I left In-N-Out, but it seems like In-N-Out is not leaving me. You smell like In-N-Out. You smell like the Coke, the fries, the burger, like the whole joint. You just smell like it. And then you go home and you take a shower. And you burn your clothes. If you were to read Marcus Aurelius 5 hours a day, I assure you, you will begin to smell like Marcus Aurelius. Your language will change, your emotions will change, your thoughts will change. So you are what you eat. It's very, 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 very true. So one of the nice things about the Islamic tradition, fasting month, one of the rituals that they do, you're supposed to read the Quran, cover to cover, in 30 days. I mean, you wake up at 3, you start reading. And then anytime you have a break, you start reading some more. Then at night, you read together. Then at night, you go to the mosque and you hear the call to the prayer or whatever. And you realize your entire day you've been exposed to this disease. And eventually, it's going to infect you. And it's a good way to be infected. Why the hell wouldn't you want to read the dialogues of Plato? It's beautiful. T.S. Eliot. Beautiful. Khalil Gibran. I mean, these are like your companions. And the more you hang out with them, the more you're going to smell like them. The problem with smelling like Plato is that you won't have very many friends around. But if you're able to sit in a room and read 10 hours of Plato, there's a good chance that you won't desire to be around people as much. Now that is called self-sufficiency. And then you know what's going to happen? After you're done with Plato, you're going to sit and you're going to write your own dialogues. It's not going to be the dialogues of Plato, it's going to be dialogues of Matthew. Man, that's another like 10, 15 hours in your bedroom, just writing away. The only thing that should concern you is you just need to pay attention to getting old. Because then you need someone to drive you to Kaiser. So don't burn all the bridges. Come on. Oscar.
What's your input on death?
Yeah, it's not a place you want to go.
Why?
So imagine after class, I go to my office and I check my messages and it's my mom. And the message is, your dad died. Am I going to be sad? Absolutely. So I'm going to cancel my classes, I'm going to cancel my wife, and I'm going to cancel my kids. Or maybe I'll just take him with me to Roseville. I'm going to look at my brother, it's going to make me cry some more. I'm going to look at my sister, it's going to cry some more. I'm going to look at my mom, that's going to cry. I'm going to cry some more. I'm going to look at the head of the table where my usually has sat for the past like 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I have all these memories. 20 years working at the car wash with this guy. Him being an immigrant coming to America when he retired and washed cars for about 20 years. So lots of history there. The first stage that death does, Oscar, it pushes me outward. I look at my life. I look at my husband, my wife, my kids, my mom, my dad, and I say, what the hell is my mom going to do at the age of 80? Then death is going to do something really devastating. It's going to force me to ask difficult questions. If death can happen at any time to anyone, how should you live your life? And the truth is, I don't know. Because most of life is not livable. It's just stupid. Again, death is like a Dyson vacuum cleaner. It puts in its trash container hope, dreams, purpose, meaning. And you really do stand naked before life and you ask, what should I do? And the answer is, I don't know. And the most difficult part of it is you try talking about this stuff to your wife, to your husband, to your kids, but they may understand this intellectually, Oscar? But here's the thing with being at different stages in life. So here's the thing. I've always considered myself to be very athletic. Then I get my chest cut open in half, and then I have a triple bypass. I go into coma. I come out after about 3 days. I stay in at Kaiser for about 5 days. I come home. This is a traumatic experience. It's like a woman, there was a book some years ago from a real experience. Kitty Genovese, I think it was in New York that took place. It's a waitress. She closes shop at 12, walking home. She feels as if someone is following her. She looks behind and there's no one. She walks again towards her apartment, but she feels something. She turns around and this guy runs towards her, stabs her. She screams. The guy runs away. She crawls towards her apartment. She screams some more. No one comes down. The guy comes back, stabs her. Now, she passed away, but she died. But imagine she was to stay alive. What you have is a trauma that lives inside her. She's doubtful of men. She's doubtful of the streets. And she's quite skeptical of just the human race, period. And there's a good chance that she may never leave her house. Now, she may go to therapy, go on medication, therapists, all those stuff. But the point is, trauma lives inside her. Now, she can come to this class and talk to me about what took place. Here's the thing. I understand what she's talking about. I just can't feel it. And that's the problem with people who have trauma on the inside. They have this ability, hopefully after many, many years of going to therapy or self-understanding, to express. The problem is it's reaching the wrong ears. People understand, but what they lack are the emotions. They can't relate. And after a while, the guy who's gone through the trauma doesn't really understand, why they expressed and they shared the story to another who's deaf, for example, okay? Now, if I am in the presence of death, I can sit here and talk to you about it. But the truth is, unless you've been there, and obviously you've done that, you're never going to fully understand. And which means that after a while, why should I even talk to you about any of the things I've gone through? Which means the following. There is a part of me that will always remain out of reach for you. We can have dinner, we can have sex, we can watch movies. Don't fucking talk to me about death, because you can't understand. Or vice versa, it's kind of like whenever I used to teach ethics, when I was kind of an immature instructor. One of the things that instructors do, because they have nothing really to do, they shouldn't really be in the classroom, but that's a different story. They show a movie. Or a group sits here, a group sits there, and they fight like dogs about abortion. Is it right or wrong? Or race. And so some guy who's not from the Middle East, or some person who's not black, raise a hand. Let me tell you what it means to be black. But shit, you're like white. Keep your mouth shut. But no, that's not the case. They have things to say. And though it may sound good, they lack the emotions. You have no idea how it feels to... when 9/11 happened, I was teaching at Sierra College. And I walk in the classroom, and these are people I've worked with for many years. They look at me and say, do you know where Osama bin Laden is? What the fuck? And so I was growing I had my beard. And so as I'm walking around town, and Roseville in the for the longest time, it's not very diverse. But as you're walking, you can see people looking at you. And you say, man, why is this guy looking at me the way he's looking at me? It's because I'm a potential terrorist. And the truth is, these are just a set of emotions that live inside you. Now, they may be the wrong interpretation on my part, but the truth is, there isn't much you can do about it. So when you ask about death, if, for example, I have cancer stage 4, I go through all these different stages. I go through the stage of denial, which you won't really get. I'll go through the stage of anger, you won't really get. I'll go through the stage of, say, compromise, I'll be good to my wife, just let me live another 5 years. You won't really get. I'll get depressed. Hello, Leah. Where are you going? I am so sorry. Just in case you want to use the office, just send me a text. It's good to see you. Yeah. As long as you know the most important parts of you can never be shared with another, you'll be fine in life. But that takes a long time. For those of you in this class who've ever had any addictions and you've worked really, really hard to get over them, do not share that part of yourself with anyone. Please. Initially, they will nod. As you become more comfortable in the relationship, you realize it was just a nod. It was hollow. It lacks understanding. And it lacks emotions. Just be mature enough to keep that to yourself. But that takes a long time. Elham, yes. Sebastian.
A little bit related to
It's a great question, by the way. You should read the Epic of Gilgamesh. And if you don't want to read it, go to YouTube. And fast forward to the point where Gilgamesh loses his companion Enkidu. And he comes to realize he can't go back to the city because life has nothing to offer him. Life eventually kills all of us. And if that's the case, how can you approach your death in a way that is meaningful and comfortable? I mean, it's like you're looking at Elizabeth Taylor, before she died, one day she was taking a bath. This is like a Barbara Walters interview some years ago. She gets out of the bath and she looks at herself. She says, man, you know, I used to weigh like 105 pounds. Now I weigh like 505 pounds. I look bad, I smell bad, everything about me is bad. And she goes through this, period of self-hatred, and she can't go to the buffets anymore. She can't go to round table. She can't go to Zachary's. She can't have pasta. And she goes on the strict diet. And that's one of the things that you'll find in the Epic of Gilgamesh. That you've been in life, you thought that life has something to offer you, you fall in love with someone in life, life kills that person, and you say, man, where do I go to find that? And you realize there is nowhere you can go. Life has nothing to offer you. And then you go on your spiritual quest. And it's devastating. I mean, to come to a place to realize that, it's like being in this romantic relationship, that after 10 years you realize this relationship has outlived its usefulness. It has nothing more to offer you. What the hell do you do now? Do you divorce her? Huh? Do you walk away from the house? Do you live in your van? I mean, that's a lot of things to give up. And that's exactly what Gilgamesh does. And that's to some extent the hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow will talk about it at some point, that if you want to go on a spiritual quest, life has no place in it. I mean, that's the function of death. But we'll talk about that. Sebastian?
Right. Towards the beginning of the class, you said that knowledge is all our knowledge is basically derived from something else, like somebody else taught it or somebody else learned it first. I think we've gotten to the point where every profound thought that you have somebody's already had before. Do you think there's any new thoughts left?
I don't think there is anything new. I think, but every person expresses the old thought in a way that fits them. I think Plato covered everything. The only thing is, Plato did not have the container of technology as we do today. Jesus Christ didn't talk about porn. But somehow, if you want to teach a class on Christianity, for example, or the Gospels or the New Testament, you have to bring porn in there somehow, because it's something that infects people in modernity. And if you can put it with the context of Christian teachings, more power to you. Race was not part of the Gospels, but it's something you need to talk about if you want to have, let's say, a meaningful conversation. And you can somehow relate Jesus Christ to that particular conversation. So as the culture evolves, or maybe devolves, and brings about new elements, you have to use those new elements within a container that's been around for a long time. There is another aspect, going back to Ilham's question. One of the reasons I asked Sophia if she knew what her name meant or why her parents gave her the name that she has. I read Plato and I gather lots of information. So much so that I go to school and I major in philosophy. and I become very knowledgeable about the ins and outs of Plato, his ideas, his teachers, and this and that. There comes a point, and I don't know how this happens, I grow tired of the knowledge of Plato. I say, you know, I'm not looking for the knowledge. I'm looking for wisdom. I'm looking for Sophia. Where the hell do I go to get that? And that becomes problematic, you know. So if you're on a quest for wisdom, eventually you got to put knowledge on the cross. But some people never get there, so they're fine with, you know, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, I want to talk about the video about
Enkidu? Yeah.
Yeah. My question is, why does it take to lose something or to have like a loss in order to realize where we stand?
There are a couple of things. The Arabic word for human being is insan. Okay. Insan comes from the root word nosiya, which means forgetful. The first thing you need to understand is the following. Human beings are forgetful animals. You're sick, you're in bed. I mean, look, I was on the verge of death. Once in a while, I cheat God, I cheat death, and I have ice cream. Why? I forget the fact that my body should not be taking fatty foods. I forget. And in forgetfulness, you just stop caring. Okay. So there are moments where you remember, but those moments fall victim to forgetfulness. There are moments where you remember, and those moments of remembrance, they explode inside you. And inasmuch as you want to forget, you're unable to. Imagine I am your husband. We've been together for a long time. You're Middle Eastern, I'm Middle Eastern. Okay? 10 years into our relationship, you realize that I've had an affair. You go to your mom's house. I call. Say, please, I am sorry. It was just a hit and run. I didn't want to break up the relationship. I give you all the stuff. And then you come back. Hello, Alexis. How are you? Good. Things are good? Please. We continue with our relationship, but you will never forget what I put you through and what I did. And every time I pick up my phone, you're going to have doubts. Every time on the phone, you're going to have doubts. Every time I say I'm going to go to Safeway and pick up a gallon of milk, you're going to have doubts. If there is an episode that has been traumatic, you will never forget. It can go into hiding once in a while. But it's just below the surface. One of the most profound aspects of the Epic of Gilgamesh is the following. Gilgamesh is a king. And you know what a king is? A king is a man who has power, like Donald Trump. He can do whatever. When he falls in love, he becomes a slave. I mean, that's a huge thing. A king who is served now begins to serve. And you only do that if you're in love. You become a slave to this component called love. And then he loses Enkidu. Now that is an immense poverty that now lives inside you. And it's a poverty that can't be nourished, replaced by anything out there. You can't forget it. Okay? Now, look, my dad is going to die. I'll be sad, but my life will continue. Maybe my kids will die in a car accident. I will be sad. I will probably go to the cemetery once every 5-6 years, but eventually my life will continue. But if his mom dies, he may have the capacity to sit back and say, the fuck am I doing with my life? Go to school for what? You know? Maybe I should just buy a van with what little money I have saved. And maybe the saying in the Gospels will come true for him. You know, the birds don't have a job, they don't save, and yet they are fed somehow. I want to suck the marrow out of life. I'm not going to give my life to the capitalists. I don't want to be socialized by people whose lives suck. Now, how is it that I experienced death and 2 minutes later I forget, and he experiences death and his life is forever changed? I don't know. I mean, that's the X Factor. You know, like the show with Simon Cowell, X Factor. Some people just have this stupid X Factor that creates envy in us, jealousy in us, anger in us. We compete to be like them. You know, so when you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, I mean, you're not just talking about some story that was written some 5,000 years. You're talking with like a man who has this like genius inside him. How is it that he falls in love and he can't forget? How is it that he experiences death and he can't forget? And how is it that he goes to share his experience with people only to realize people don't have ears to hear? So he writes his stories on a wall. Talk about a human being who becomes a recluse. Millions of people out there, he's got no one to talk to except the goddamn wall. I mean, that's devastating. Only if Gilgamesh had taken Communications 101 at Laney College, then he would have fucking learned. I'm upset now. No, it's here you go.
So do you think it's self-preservation, or what is it called when, like, when we're talking about death? You've experienced it. So for myself, I've experienced a lot of death, so much so that I feel like I don't even have an emotional reaction when it happens. So my sister, on the other hand, has like a little breakdown. Like her mom dies, she's breaking down on the ground, sobbing, and there's no reaction that I can give her to console her. I feel like I love my mom. I was her favorite kid and did everything for her. And I don't know, I told myself like I'm at peace because I went above and beyond while she was here. And I don't really have regrets. So it's not that I don't care, but what is it called when you just, it's not that I don't have ears to hear, like with Gilgamesh, but like I've experienced it before, so.
I mean, there are a couple of things. When I washed my first corpse, I walked around in a daze for a number of, I walked around in a daze for a number of weeks. The second corpse, the intensity was less. By the time I get to the fifth and the sixth, it was just another day washing another corpse, you know. So one aspect of it has to do with your exposure to life. You know, how often have you been around death to the point where it's become normalized for you, something that just is just part of life. That's number one. Second is some people are feelers and some people are extroverts and introverts. Introverts have a tendency, and your sister may be that they take the stuff in, and whatever they take in, it just refuses to come out. You know, it just gets soaked in, and it has to kind of play itself out. 10, 15, 20 days or years or whatever, that this trauma doesn't leave. Someone like you, who is less emotional, and this is temperamental. It's not about you, whatever you've gone through. It just basically that's the way you've been wired. You know, and it's something that usually takes place with siblings, you know, that you have two kids, and one is very, very emotional, the other is very, very rational. The rational wants to be emotional, but he or she can't. The emotional wants to be rational because when you're emotional, you're always up and down. You're very chaotic. And the trick is, if you're an extrovert, train yourself to become a little bit more of a feeler. So there's a balance between your mind and your heart. And if you're a feeler, you know, be a bit more objective, detach yourself from emotions so you can begin to observe and be a bit more reflective, therefore a bit more thoughtful, as opposed to always expressing yourself through emotions. You know, I mean, that's really the best I could do. And the other aspect is, sometimes experiences happen to people at the right time or the wrong time. It may be you're at a certain stage in your life where you're no longer in the emotional stages that you used to be when you were in your 20s or 30s. Maybe you're a bit more objective as you walk into life. 10 years ago, maybe your reaction would be completely different, So, yeah. And there are really no good answers to anything. Oliver. Alex.
Do you believe that the world balances itself with like people with good intention versus bad intentions?
No. I mean, look, I went out with this girl for about 8 years. I was like 10, and she was like 25. The numbers are just a joke, but you guys, anyways. I did not intend to hurt her. I liked her, and she was Persian, and we just hung out, and emotions grew. At a certain point, I don't know how, I just didn't want to be around that person. I just didn't want to be in a relationship. Was my intention bad? Not really, I just didn't know. I think it takes a long time for you to understand why you want to get involved with anything. Whether it's buying a sofa or getting to a romantic relationship. I don't think people have bad intentions. I think we don't really have access to full knowledge, why we're doing it, who the other person is. I mean, it's really, really complex. And, I think if you learn nothing from Jesus Christ, and if you don't care about anything that he said, I think there's this one phrase of his, that human beings are born in sin. You should take that to the bank. It's profoundly valuable. I mean, sin is missing the mark in Latin. It's not like, that's the stain that all of us are born with. We come with insufficient tools, insufficient knowledge. We are born blind and we live out our life blind. Look, I say a lot of shit in this class. I don't know where you've been. I don't know who you are. I don't know your past. What I do know is that people have triggers. But I am just saying things, and sometimes they come out. I have no idea what I say, how I say it, how it's going to impact you. You may walk out of this classroom being angry, thinking that I am the villain, but the truth is, I don't know you, man. And I don't know the power of language. And I can't be sanitized every fucking 24 hours, 7. The world is a nasty place. Grow a fucking thicker skin. And so the idea of being born in sin basically means that you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And every time you make a mistake, someone is going to get hurt. Sometimes you have the opportunity to go to them and say, listen, I apologize, I really didn't mean that. And sometimes you don't have that opportunity, which means that this other person is going to be forever angry at you for whatever you said or did. That's the injustice of life. There isn't much you can do. I wish I could look like Brad Pitt, but I just look like Snoop Dogg. Ugly. Unattractive. It's good to see all of you. See you on Thursday.